name is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we are doing the Bah Hum book tag. This was a tag originally created by Kate from Chapter Kate, and I will leave her original video and channel linked down below. It looks like we do have 10 questions here, and these questions are being used to incite some rants is what I think we are trying to get to. They are all basically questions where you are answering what you don't want. I think this is going to be a fun tag to do just because you can see a lot about a person based on what they do like, but also what they don't like. So let's go. Question 1, what kind of cover art immediately turns you off of a book? So for me, I think I'm gonna have to go with those ones that looked very sort of badly photoshopped. I do actually read some indie romance and self-published romance, not as much this year as I have done in years past, but there are just something about some of the photoshopped ones, and I mean the ones that usually have like real people on the cover, that just turn me off. I've really been enjoying the sort of illustrated covers that romance has been doing lately, because even if the illustration's not necessarily in my style, I love those covers so much more than ones with real people on the cover. I'm gonna throw up a couple examples here as well. I have probably not read these books, or I might have. I actually did not think through what covers I was going to use. I will put down here somewhere if I read them or not, but these are just examples of covers I don't like as much. It does not mean I won't read them. Question number 2, what do you hate most on a book cover? For me, I'm gonna say those permanent stickers. They are not stickers. I hate stickers in general, but the ones that are like printed on the book really annoy me. So for example, Nevermore. I had been trying to purchase Nevermore for myself for a while this year, but my Barnes & Noble only had the one that had like the now $4.99 sticker or something on it. But again, it wasn't a sticker, it was printed on the actual book. So I did eventually get one that was full price, which is like $8, so you only really saved like $3, which is not necessarily a small price, but for me, I was happily able to pay the extra like $3 to not have a permanent sticker on my book. On the other hand, something that I have noticed that I don't like is when they take something off as well. So again, this is in the same sort of vein. When I worked at Barnes & Noble, we sold like Lady Midnight. And so with these books here, we have embossing. Is it embossing? I don't know what it's called, but it's textured where you can feel the actual words on there. And this one here is $14.99. So this is like the normal Lady Midnight paperback, and it has the texture on the words. The texture on here as well. You can see it. The imprint, maybe it's an imprint, but there was a time a couple years ago where they were trying to sell this as a cheaper price. And again, this is normally $15. I don't think it was as cheap as the $4.99 Nevermore book, but it was something that was like $10 or less. So you did save a chunk of money for it. Maybe it was like $7.99. But not only did they have a little sticker thing on there, I'm pretty sure, that said it was $7.99, but there was no embossing. Everything was very plain, very flat. You could just tell the quality was not as good. And so that, I don't like it when they take those things away. If it was a book that didn't have that already, that's great. But when you can tell the difference because you have one already, no. Question number 3, when reading a synopsis, what could make you want to yeet the book across the bookstore? I don't think I've ever said yeet out loud. For me, that's gonna be anything that has like a historical fiction date sort of thing. So I do have some exceptions to this preference, but I don't necessarily like historical fiction, especially when it's like not a fantasy or something like that. Like when it's just plain historical fiction, that is not really my thing. So if I'm looking at a book and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, in 1492, such and such is doing this, like my brain turns off. My brain immediately turns off because it's not as interesting to me. If it is a fantasy, that is something that is completely different, but any sort of like date where you're like, oh yep, this is gonna be a historical, I just don't really want. Question number 4, what trope makes you want to scream into the abyss? So this one The only reason I'm saying this trope, because I couldn't think of a really, really good one, is I have been reading manga lately, and I did do a whole read through of Dreamin' Sun, which is a series that I used to really, really love, but I had never finished. And it has a trope that makes me itch, and it's the age gap where one character is under 18. So in that series, we end up with an endgame relationship. So I'm gonna, I guess, be spoiling things. We end up with an endgame relationship where one character, I think, is 17 and the other one is like 23. That is an age gap where somebody is technically still a kid, and the thing that really annoyed me was that our guy, who is 23, our landlord of the building that this girl lives in, for the first few books was like, she is a kid. She is so immature, she is a kid. But then something eventually changes where they start to date. And I'm just like, you were so adamant that you were an adult and she was a kid, and that is right. And you then ignored it for this. And I really do want to specify, I do not mean age gaps in general, because if you have two consenting adults, that is completely fine. Truthfully, my husband and I are an age gap. He is 10 years older than me, but we met when I was in my mid-20s and he was in his mid-30s. That is completely different than an adult and a teenager who is actually still a kid. Question number 5. What book induces rage the moment it is mentioned in your presence? So for this, again, it took me a little while, only because I don't feel like I have too many strong negative feelings about books, especially ones that other people mention a lot or enjoy. But there is one book that I absolutely hated. I don't see anybody mention it, but I guess I'm mentioning it today, because if anybody did mention it, I would probably go on a rant. And that is going to be Free Chocolate by Amber Royer. This is one that I picked up a couple years ago whenever it came out, and I was very, very intrigued because it is supposed to be a sci-fi. Well, I mean, it is a sci-fi, but it was supposed to be a like bilingual main characters, sort of like a telenovela, and it was all revolving around chocolate. Chocolate is the main and basically only export of Earth, because once the aliens came and like Earth joined the Galactic Federation, or whatever it actually is, they had taken things from Earth and were able to make their own things of it, but like chocolate is the one thing that Earth kept. And it turned into this political thing of our main character trying to give chocolate to other people so that Earth doesn't have this like one main export. However, it was so slow. Our main character was bilingual. However, I don't think our author is a natural Spanish speaker, because the way she was trying to incorporate English and Spanish just did not work. I have read actually a few books this year that have done Spanish and English together flawlessly. You can just tell it is so much more that author's like identity than Amber Royer. So that was one thing. Okay, so we had Spanish, we had English, and we had weird galactic talk that I don't think worked well together at all. The mix was weird, but there is one line that just makes me like gag every single time I think of this book. And I grabbed the line so I can tell you guys, because I need to get this word for word. But it is, this white blouse is so low cut, it shows off a good bit of décolletage. I probably don't say that word right, but. And the word nut in my brain can't help but connect it by way of the Latin root word column for neck to decollate, an old-fashioned way to say beheaded. Why? This was a small sampling of the book. It was so bad. So bad. The cover's gorgeous. There's aliens on the cover. That alien showed up 3 times in the whole book. So bad. Number 6. What could someone say when recommending a book to you that could break your trust in them? So this one, I literally do not know. I have been racking my brain for a whole day trying to figure this out. And I don't think I have too much stuff where somebody could be recommending me a book and say something and I'd be like, nope, I just can't do that. I mean, we talked about historical fiction, but like nobody's ever tried to recommend me historical fiction. And if there is fantasy elements in it, that's different. I don't personally like military fantasy stuff as much, but again, I've only read a few of those. Some of them I've liked, some of them I hated. It's just, I don't know. I can't really think of something that for sure if somebody tried to recommend me this, I would say, no, you're wrong, I can't do that. I would probably try anything because the people that are recommending me stuff, I would hope, are my friends and know my taste. Question 7. What author would you like to fight? I have never been in a fight before in my life. I would never actually want to fight, but how is my answer anything other than J.K. Rowling? Like, especially after everything that happened this year and how she has doubled down on being the TERF she is, like, how is it not her? Question 8. What character would you like to drop kick? This question's funny to me, but leaning into some of the stuff I've said earlier, I'm gonna pick the landlord from Dream and Son. I don't specifically remember his name, probably because I'm trying to repress it, but also, you were doing so well at the beginning of that series. You were so adamant about not having relationships with a kid, and then you threw it all out the window when your friend convinced you to go out on one date with her. She calls you the landlord. You guys got married at the end of the series and she literally still calls you the landlord. Like, she doesn't, like, I just can't. He seemed to be such a smart character at the beginning of the series, and then we had that. Question 9. If Goodreads were a person, what would you bully them for? So again, I don't fight, I don't bully, I hate bullying. I used to work at a school, like, just don't do that. However, something that does make me mad about Goodreads is the half-star ratings. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can get mad about Goodreads for, but there is a big difference to me between a 3, a 3.5, and a 4. I, being the generous person I am, pretty much always round up my ratings, so if it is a 3.5, I round it up to a 4. But I really do wish there was a way to differentiate that better, because, I don't know, we can rate movies on IMDb by 10 stars. I don't want necessarily a 10-star system. 5 stars is great, but we do, I think, need those half stars in between, because for me, a 4-star is really, really good. It just didn't somehow hit that 5-star, and a 3 is mediocre. There was good things, there was bad things. It's not memorable. So that 3.5 carries a lot of weight. You're in between really, really good and okay. Number 10. If you could ban anything from books forever, what would it be? And she is asking for more of a trivial thing, doesn't have to be anything super specific. We're not talking about actually banning books, but like if you could read books and have one thing never show up in your books, what would it be? And for me, it would be killing of animals, pets specifically. I do think there are certain things that are more okay than others. So like if somebody is going hunting and you are actually showing these characters either using every part of the animal or having some consequences or something for just hunting in general, that's fine. However, I have read some books where a cat or a dog or an animal that somebody loves dies for basically no reason. Like, it just feels like an emotional plot device. Like, it doesn't feel like it actually had a purpose to that death. Like, I would just happily skip past all of that. Again, there are certain times I think it does fit into a story and I'm not as mad about it. However, if I could ban it from all books, I would. And then that was everything. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you have not checked out Kate's video already, definitely go do that. And if you want to do this video, definitely do that as well. I would love to see more videos of this. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Subscribe to this channel if you would like to see more videos. I do have videos up Mondays, Thursdays, and sometimes Saturdays. But I am also doing the 12 Days of Bookmas, so you are getting one video a day from the 14th through the 25th. And I will see you then. Bye!